Welcome to another episode of the Manhood podcast. Today, I have with me Aaron Cartwright, who is a healing coach specialized in helping others reconnect themselves and reclaim their power within so they can live their most inspired and meaningful life possible. Aaron's a beautiful friend of mine that I've only really been connected with for the last few months. But you know, when you meet somebody and they take you to a deep level within yourself, to the point that you feel like you've known them for a long time, that's this relationship that I've had with Aaron. I was so lucky to get connected to him for a friend of mine, Crystal Agwin. Shout out to Crystal back in Australia doing beautiful things. And he took me through a really powerful transformative session using a modality called inner child work and really working with the subconscious mind. And I was excited to have him on here today to share his wisdom with us. So, welcome, Aaron. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm
Abs-
excited.
Absolutely, man. So, to get started, I always love to ask our guests because I feel like there's so much embedded wisdom within our journeys and how we got to this point. I'd love you to share with us like where your transformational journey started for you and how you got to the point where you are now that you're inspired and you're helping other people. I know you're running lots of courses and all of the beautiful stuff that you do. So if you don't mind sharing, yeah, some of your
Yeah,
story with
yeah.
us, dude.
Well, I think it's a series. There's a long story. There's a short story. I think the short story is in 2020, actually end of 2019. I was already a mindset coach. I was running a gym, and I was on top of the world. I was making 9K a week in the gym. Everything was peachy. I was doing really well, mentally, physically, in the best shape of my life. I was helping people with their mental state already. And then out of nowhere, it seemed like out of nowhere, I started having panic attacks and my life went downhill. And I mean downhill. So within about 3, 4 months, every minute of every waking moment, I was swinging between panic attacks and depression. Panic attacks, depression. One minute I want to kill myself, next minute I'm afraid to die. I know we're going pretty deep, pretty quick, but it was pretty severe. And the reason why I start with that is because at that time I thought I knew everything. I thought I had everything figured out. And there was a realization I didn't know anything. So the short story is um, many times in my life, I've gone through stuff mentally, emotionally, all the things, and I try to figure it out. I've always been very curious about figuring myself out. And that was probably the biggest moment, end of 2019. There was many moments before that where I figured myself out in a way and got help, support from psychologists and coaches and sometimes other things, but that was the catalyst. That was the deep, dark night of the soul that really um, made me go really deep into myself.
Mm, powerful. It reminds me of so many people's journeys that I hear of like these deep, dark moments in their life where it almost feels like there's a finish or a completion, or like, we're going through this really hard time, but yet it has rebirthed you obviously into what you're doing today. And it's given you a different view on life. And what I'm hearing in your story as well is like, what a blessing of like, you
Yeah,
thought you had it all, which is a place that you can't add anything to that. Like you're a full cup in that state that there's got no more room for life to be able to bless you, and in some way like
yeah,
life showed you there's more there. So um
yeah.
it's a beautiful
Well,
thing.
looking back, it's really obvious. Hindsight's a funny thing because you look back and go, "How did I not see that?" So, when you look back in your life, things make sense. In the moments, it doesn't make sense. Why is this happening to me? Well, looking back, I realized that yes, I had all on paper. I was doing really well. Beautiful girlfriend. She had a lovely family. She would have been a great wife, great business, great friends. I had it all. But what was going on was deep down, my self worth was tied to everything external. It was tied to the gym. It was tied to the numbers each week coming in. It was tied to how people perceive me with my beautiful girlfriend. Everything was perceived on the outside. It was all I created a life that wasn't actually truly aligned. And I think that's why it come crumbling down to force me to love myself because I had to get rid of my girlfriend. I had to get rid of my gym. I got rid of everything because I literally couldn't get out of bed. I was mentally gone. And it's laughable now because it was trying to help me to love myself. As deep as that sounds, it was trying to force me to love myself with nothing. No girlfriend, no money, no nothing. So I was literally forced. You either love yourself or you just keep going down a dark spiral. And what a
Mhm.
beautiful gift I got for that.
Absolutely, brother. Love that. So something that I was reading on one of an articles that you had written more recently was a statement saying being aware of your issues isn't enough. And you had made a few examples of like, love avoider, love addict. I'm anxious attached. I'm avoidant. I have childhood traumas. These things are like these frameworks that we might be able to start seeing ourselves through. Where starting to realize, hey, actually, there's something happening with me. And yeah, you said here the statement of being aware of your issues isn't enough. I just wanted to open that up for you to
Yeah.
speak to why.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. And the reason I say that is because, well, the first step is being aware, I believe. So being aware is a crucial step. So it's not like a bad thing being aware. But what happens is, and I speak for myself first, and then I'll speak for other like clients that come to me that I see, which is what I was doing in 2019. I knew it all. I knew the mindset. I knew my I knew my patterns. I knew this. I knew that, and to a certain extent, it did help. It's a really good first step. Um, but it's a first step, right? So it's not the next step. The next step is actually working with the unconscious in your body. Typically, it's the body, the emotions, the inner child, because there's a reason why you can read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and listen to the holistic psychologist and all these things and get all, and you're very aware and you don't want to attract an avoidant, or you don't want to attract a narcissist and all this. It's really good. But then you keep attracting the narcissist. And you're like, why am I attracting the narcissist? It's not your fault. And here's it's a double-edged sword with knowing things, because you can know your patterns, and then when the patterns happen, you think you're a failure because you thought you should know better. Well, that's not true, because your unconscious is in the driver's seat, and your unconscious is your inner child, your younger versions that you went through stuff when you were younger, and it's how you got through at the time. And you keep doing that. So logically, we have a logical brain, and then we have the, like you call it the animal brain, the inner child brain. And the inner child is the one that's throwing the tantrums and trying to stay safe. So being aware is not enough, because you need to work deeper. And I didn't know what this meant when I first heard it, so hopefully it's making sense. But working deeper means going into the body and feeling the feelings of the pattern. So if you don't want to avoid it, if you want to avoid, say, a narcissist, for example, a lot of women have come to me and said that, and even like men, it's happened as well. Well, what we need to do is actually go into the feeling, that the reason why you're attracting narcissists. Where's it come from? Where's it stem from? And let's go into the feeling, the yucky feelings, and deal with that. Being aware just won't do it. That's probably the short answer, and hopefully it makes sense, because it's
Mhm.
very abstract as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And it's interesting that point you spoke to, how of these like events that happen to us when we're younger, and that's what can be playing out still in our life, like that we're still operating from that younger version of ourselves that wasn't able to actually express themselves at that time, or wasn't able to receive the support they needed at that time. And this is the experience that you took me through during our session, where you took me back to an event when I was younger, and I was able to see it and feel it and actually relive this event for myself, and to gain a new empowering view on that event, which allowed me to then step in and bring myself into the picture as like the full grown version of me now, and seeing my younger child and what he was going through and making sense of that. That really fascinated me. I hadn't done a lot of like inner child work prior to that, to be honest. Like I had thought that I had, but then when you stepped me through it and you took me through the different perceptual positions, which are just different ways of seeing a circumstance, there was some huge changes that happened within me. So, did you mind maybe speaking through that process? Say we've got somebody who's got this ongoing event that keeps happening to them. Let's just go with the narcissistic person. They keep drawing in those particular types of partners again and again. They see the patterns. They can see how they're allowing it to happen. They can maybe even see it coming, but it just happens again and again to them, no matter what they do. And we're now connecting that this is connected to a past event, and something that's happened to them, and the reason why. So can you just walk us through like that process of like taking the
Yeah,
inner child work? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, for example, yeah, the narcissist is a good one, because it's very common. It's very common. So, if someone comes to me and they're like, I don't want to. attract a narcissist. I keep doing it. I know I keep doing it. I've been reading all the books. I'm watching holistic psychologists. How do I actually stop the thing? Well, there's many ways we can go. We can go pretty deep with this, but and there's many avenues. But basically, what you can do is, we go into the feeling. The feeling is the thing that we want to actually go to. So, for example, what I do with clients is I get them to safely go into their body, and normally we go to a moment. For example, the narcissist, was degrading me or gaslit me, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever, something that triggered you. So we go to the trigger. What did this narcissist trigger you about? Well, he degraded me. So go to the moment he degraded you. Okay, are you there? Yes, I'm there. Okay. And by the way, when I'm doing this with clients, it's a lot safer. I'm not just being like rushing like this. So then we go into it and okay, close your eyes. Let's get safe into the body. What did you feel at that moment that the narcissist degraded you? Well, I felt hurt. I felt rejected. Okay, where do you feel that in your body? Okay, so what we're actually trying to do, and I got this from a guy called Dr. Russell Kennedy. He's called the Anxiety MD, really good on Instagram if anyone wants to follow him. He calls it the alarm. So he spent many years, he's a MD, he did many, many things, and he figured things out when he was 55 years old after about 40 years of therapies and psychedelics, everything. He tried everything. And the thing he found was there's actually an alarm in our body. It's not in our mind. We think it's in our mind. We think we can figure things out. It's actually in the body, and there's actually an alarm that's stuck in the body from childhood or somewhere in your past. So what happens is I get them to go into their alarm and feel the alarm. And typically, like, for example, mine is in my heart. So when I get triggered, I feel it in my heart, and it goes up to my throat and constricts my throat. That's my alarm. Some people's alarms are in the solar plexus. Some is a bit lower. Some is, on the other side of the chest. It really depends on the person, but there is some sort of alarm in your body, okay? And when we get that alarm, we find the alarm, I get them to then connect to the alarm, because the alarm is the thing driving the bus, right? The alarm is the thing that's driving, the alarm is the painful thing. We think it's the thoughts, we think it's the whatever in our minds, it's the alarm. So when I get them to do that, I get them to feel into the alarm, and then it's like magic. Pretty much every time, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it comes up within a couple minutes to 2 to 5 minutes. We sit with the alarm and I ask them the simple question. I say, when you feel into the alarm, what does it remind you of in the past? Do you have a memory that it reminds you of? And I say, don't think about it. I don't want you to think about it. This is the problem. We try to think our way through things too much, and I'm guilty of that. Can you feel into the alarm? Okay, yes, you feel into it. Now, as you feel into it, let a memory pop up. What does this remind you of, this feeling? And I swear to God, 9 times out of 10, within 2 to 5 minutes, you get a clear, at least, age, and most of the time you get some sort of memory. Sometimes you don't get a memory, but a lot of the times you get an age. And normally it's under 10. And I say, go to the earliest one that's coming up. It's normally under 10 years old. And they'll pick a number, and then we normally find where it started, this alarm, and then we go back to the alarm, which is actually in a child, a younger version of Greg or Aaron or whoever, and then we connect them. We connect the adult Greg or adult Aaron back to the younger Greg or younger Aaron. So they reconnect and give the younger Aaron or Greg what they're needing in that moment. For example, with narcissists, a lot of the times it comes back to a parent that was a narcissist, right? And you had to survive with your narcissist parent or caregiver or sibling to survive and have safety and love. So what you do is go back and do something called reparenting, and you go and reparent the way you needed back in the moment and give them the need that they needed in the moment. Because the truth is, they're still very alive in you. That young 9-year-old, 8-year-old that got abused or yelled at or whatever happened to you is actually still very alive in you, and he comes up or she comes up when you get triggered. So your triggers, this is something that I think everyone should write down because it blew my mind and changed my life. Your triggers are your younger self. Every trigger you go through, most triggers, I'd say, not every trigger, most triggers you go through are a younger version of you. That's all it is. That's why when you get into arguments with a partner or you're in road rage, and then 5 minutes later you go, what the fuck did I just do that for? Why did I say that to them? Like, why did I act like that? Well, you regressed into the 5-year-old. That's why you actually feel like a 5-year-old, and you look back and go, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? I'm so sorry. And you have guilt, and you say sorry to your partner, or then you apologize, because in a way, it wasn't your fault. You regressed into a younger version that had some sort of trauma. So what we do is we go back to reconnect you to your younger self. And what happens, something magical happens that is very hard to put into words, but you got to feel it, is that you kind of feel like you've reconnected to yourself. The part of yourself has come back to you and you feel more whole, right? And whole, the meaning of heal, if you look at the word heal, and I love healing, but I think in this day and age, it's gone a bit far with don't get me wrong, I love woo-woo, I love spiritual stuff. That's part of me as well, but it's gone too far with the healing, too much love and light. And it's forgetting that we need to go into the darkness, and also forgetting that we um, are both sides. That's another story, actually. But anyways, when we reconnect to your younger self, you feel like you're one again. You feel like you're whole, which means healed. So when I say I help people heal, I don't actually help them heal. No one actually helps you heal. I guide you back to your own healing. Everyone's got their own healing abilities. This is the cool thing. I'm not a guru. I don't believe in gurus. We just guide you back to yourself. It's magical stuff, and then you become more whole, which is healed. That's actually what healed means.
Yeah.
Until you get triggered again, because you will, and then you do the process again. And I believe if there's a drawback. If you're always healed, it's not realistic. It's not realistic to always be healed, but it is realistic to keep coming back to yourself, to come back to healing, and then go out in the world. And then what happens is we get triggered because we grow in life, and life is not easy. And then you come back to yourself again and again. So it's we go from healed to, or you could say unintegrated to integrated. That's what life is: integrated, unintegrated, and that's how we evolve through life.
Mm. Yeah, it's a curious journey. It's almost like to get to that next chapter or next level of our life, the right trigger comes up for us that takes us back to the right childhood event that we need to be able to make peace with, or to integrate that child version of us that needed something for us to take the step forward. And as you were saying, it doesn't mean that we're like healed forever. It means that we've almost like achieved that next level that we can step forward. And,
Yeah.
this is a really good, like, as I'm speaking here, it's a really good sign of when we feel like we're spinning our wheels in life and we're not able to move forward. And we're doing everything in our power to. We know all the things, we're reading all the books, as Aaron was saying before, and yet something's holding us back from being able to do what we need to do and show up in the ways that we need to show up to gain success. It's a good sign that there's something happening deep within the unconscious within ourselves. And the powerful thing we're hearing here is there's actually something we can do about that. We're not a victim to that, but we have the ability to change it with the right guidance. So,
Yeah. And just to quickly, like, also what changed my perspective on triggers, because when I used to get triggered, I thought I was a failure. I thought I wasn't healing. I thought I wasn't moving forward. It's completely shifted now. So when I get triggered, I'm realizing there's some area of my life that I'm pushing against that I haven't pushed against. It could be public speaking to more people than I'm used to, or it could be I'm traveling to a country I haven't been, or I'm going further in the world, or I'm in a relationship that's going deeper. The trigger is showing you you're growing in life. That's how I look at it. So, and also triggers are a portal to self-love. So if you don't have triggers, you don't know where to have self-love. So how do we know what to self-love without triggers? All right. So triggers are there's a beautiful side to triggers that we don't access and we don't look at. We just think it's, oh, I thought I was on this healing journey. I went to the psychologist, I went to the coach, I went to the event, I went to the retreat, and now I'm triggered 2 weeks later. Of course, you're supposed to be triggered. It's life. So it's just changing people's perspective on what triggers are. They're not a bad thing. They're not wrong. It's just younger versions coming up because you're growing in some area, or you're butting against something that's really painful. It's okay. We can just reflect and go into it again. There's no right or wrong.
yeah. And from this point, say somebody's come to you, they've gone through this deep transformation. I've had my own experience of this, but what do they generally experience coming out the other side after they've had an experience where they've done some inner child work? They might have resolved some pieces. Like, what's the feedback you get from your clients?
Well, we'll say me in the beginning, because the reason I teach this, I'm so passionate about it, is because I don't teach anything that hasn't changed my life. So for me, when I was going through that 2019 thing that I was going through, the dark night of the soul, nothing was working. And when I first connected to my inner child, I went on a plane to Sydney from Adelaide. I went to my mentor's 2-day event, and I was like, I was so embarrassed that I was even doing something called inner child, because at the time I was like this gym goer, like I didn't want to feel like a pussy, basically. And I didn't want people to think I was doing inner child work. So I actually kept it a secret. I was like, I'm not telling anyone. I thought it was so stupid, but I was so desperate for healing that I was willing to try anything. So when I first connected, he first got us to connect to my inner child. I'm not joking. I just bawled my eyes out because I just realized this was the missing piece for me. And I was so disconnected from my true core, my you could call it my soul, whatever you want to call it. I was disconnected from my essence. That the moment I reconnected to my inner child, because your inner child is, if you look at children, I look at my nephews, I just love being around them because they just want to play. They're just so authentic. They just want to play. They don't care. They don't care about money and this and that. They just want to play and have fun in life. And they're just so pure in many ways. Your inner child is, your pure self is still inside of you. So when I reconnected to myself, I had this instant, oh my God, like that pure innocence is still in me. That essence, that beautiful part of me is still there. And I remember just bawling my eyes out and just realizing this was a big, big missing piece of my life. And I think it's missing in many people's lives, especially men, because we're so disconnected from ourselves at times because we get forced to, in ways we do have to provide and do all those things. That's part of our who we are, but we can't forget about the other side, the little boy inside of us that needs nurturing as well. So what I felt was I felt very connected. My anxiety levels went from panic attacks down to like I felt like Buddha. I felt like I felt so calm in situations that my anxiety levels went from extreme to basically none within a few days of inner child work. Now, that's not always the case. That can take longer, but for me, that's what happened. I felt very compassionate towards myself because what I realized was I was hating myself. I hated myself. I thought I loved myself, but I was only loving myself because I had 9K coming in a week and I had a beautiful looking girlfriend and she was lovely. And I had people give me feedback that I was great. That's the only reason I thought I was great. I didn't actually believe that deep down. I thought I did. What inner child work gave me was actually the true belief that even if I had nothing around me, I still loved myself. And that gives you freedom. True freedom is loving yourself without anything. That's my belief. And I've got nothing against finances or anything. I love money. I love all that stuff still, but I can lose it and I still love myself. So for me, it gives me the power. It gives me some sort of power that I didn't have before, which is freedom to love myself and have that security within myself that I've always got my back. So it really calmed down my anxiety levels. It really calmed down this rush to be someone I wasn't, this successful man that I just needed to be at this top of the mountain to be in order to be loved. So it really stopped that rush to be loved. And instead of rushing up the mountain, I've just slowly gone up that mountain without needing to get up there. But the funny thing is, you go faster because you're not rushing. Because people that rush, they get to the top and then they burn out anyways and come back down to the floor. That's what I'm realizing with many men that are, especially coming to the event, that last event, we had a few guys come and it was really impactful because this is exactly what they've been going through, which is they've got the business, they've got everything going on around them, but something was missing and they were really in the dark night of the soul. And that was the missing piece for them too. So it's really inspiring to see if other people happen as well. So what they said from the event just a few months ago was they described it as, what did they say? I think it was the missing piece. They said, I feel like this is the missing piece. I feel like I've been empty. I feel like I don't know why I should be depressed. I don't know why I should be anxious. I've got everything I need. I've got beautiful kids. One guy in particular, he's got beautiful kids, beautiful business, amazing, everything, got a big farm. Everything's amazing. But he felt empty and depressed, like very suicidal. And this was the missing piece. He was forgetting to love that part of himself. And I truly believe this is the missing piece for most people that they're looking for. So the tangible benefits have been improved relationships to others, because if you prove the relationship to yourself, you automatically improve the relationships to others. You see people differently. You kind of see people for who they are, which is just a human with both sides. That and you can kind of see through people a little bit more and just have more compassion for people instead of being as judgy, and you kind of see things for what they are, which is people are just trying their best and everyone just wants to be loved for who they are. But some people we just don't know how to at times. So compassion for yourself and others is the biggest thing that comes from it.
Beautiful, brother. I love that piece that you were speaking about within your own journey, connecting to this inner child within yourself and feeling like the purity and You may have said this or not, but I received it from what you said through your actions on the screen and also your voice, but like this excitement for life again and connection to like your
Yes.
soul, like this
Yeah.
inner essence of who you are.
Yeah.
And I love that transformation moment when I see the sparkle in somebody's eye as well, of them clicking into that part of themselves of like, fuck, there's this exciting life that I used to live when I was this little kid. And I'm getting that back again. I can feel that excitement again of like that feeling that I had at Christmas when I was a little kid receiving my presents, or when dad used to pop me on the back of the motorbike, or whatever it was, from that person's childhood. That starts to come up. And it's a beautiful journey of the person going, like in my experience, of the person going from maybe feeling stuck in some way, like they've been repeating the same pattern, like I don't know how to move forward in life, and going, oh shit, there's actually another whole opportunity available here. Now I can see it. Now that I'm out of that feeling of stuckness and I'm not telling myself the same stories, I can see the vision bigger. And yeah, my experience, what gets to birth from that place is the person starts realizing, like, what do I actually want for me? What actually excites me? And sometimes, the life, and I've been through my own breakdown in this way. This is why I can speak to it as well. Sometimes the life that we've built is one that wasn't necessarily intrinsically coming from what we desired. It could have been from the way that society's told us of the things that we should be checking off. Um, that's definitely what happened with me at the age of 25. I had the house. I was working my way up in the job. I had the beautiful partner. I was married. I'd done all the things that I was meant to, and realized I still wasn't happy. And yeah, but that breakdown moment for me gave me the opportunity to go, okay, to restart my life, to actually choose what do I want for me, and gave me the opportunity of a lifetime really to build myself the way that I wanted, with plenty of time left in my life. So yeah, I'm so like passionate about this work. I love the way that you explained what you have here, Aaron, as well. So thank you for taking us through the steps and the
Yeah,
importance
you're
of,
welcome.
yeah, working with the child. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like children, they can teach us a lot. We teach them a lot. Obviously, we guide them through life, we keep them safe. But if you actually look at it, they teach us so much about life. Honestly, just be around kids and just just watch how they act. Now, I'm not saying we should act like kids and be immature, but there's a part of us that should really allow that to come back out, because what you'll notice, and I've noticed this in my own life, if you truly want the success and all the things, there's nothing better than letting the inner child out, because you're going to be creative. You're going to be relaxed. You're going to have these massive ideas. The ideas that I've had since doing inner child work was way grander than when was doing the mindset work, and was hustle, 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 and just do the thing. Very important part of my life. And as a masculine, action is very important. But I also believe we're missing the inner child essence to relax a little bit, let things brew, let ideas brew. And I actually believe it's a better way to success. That's my opinion as well. So this has been true for me.
Yeah. It's a really powerful book I'm reading at the moment, say, and it's the title is 10x is greater than 2x. And I feel this relates to this conversation because I feel like when we connect to that uniqueness that we have within us, which is very closely related to us being connected to our child as well, it's almost one and the same, that us sharing that uniqueness with the world is a far greater value than us just regurgitating something that is already there. And to me, the analogy is that the 2x is like only looking for two times our growth. And that's what we think that we're capable of through our current belief systems, the way that we're seeing the world. And we're playing usually within a system. So if we're investing in real estate, the next thing would be to buy the next house, to buy the next rental, to add one on, that would be 2xing. But the 10x is to get creative, as Aaron was saying, and to be thinking like in much greater schemes, like asking yourself the question, like if I wasn't playing this game and I was to make a movement here that could completely change my life, how would I be playing? And it's curious, like we might look to people that are going huge in business or in their life and making huge levels of success in one area or another of their life. And generally, the people that I'm finding more and more as I'm traveling through LA now, especially that are going really big, they're ones that actually know and are connected to their essence, and they're working from that place, and they're bringing something so unique to the world. And they're also doing things that are far outside of the frame of reference than which their mentors have told them, because they're no longer measuring just off their mentors or the people that have made it in front of them. They're taking that, they're using that as a foundation, and throwing themselves forward to these ideas and this playful experience of life of like, I can have whatever I want. And that's what the child in us believes of, like, life is magic.
Yeah.
Life is here to
Yeah.
bless us. Life wants us to win. And, when a kid's sitting there in mum or dad's arms, or they're playing, they're not up in their head and creating boundaries and blockages for themselves. They're just enjoying the present moment. They're so tuned into everything around them. They can feel the excitement in their body. When they have a good idea, they're willing to share it. And they're willing to also usually share it with other people as well, generous with that. Children are super generous, because
Yeah.
this is before the age of them having any lack or limitation, which is sort of built into us through usually then our parent relationships and through life. But yeah, this
Yeah.
power of being connected with the child. It's even like, not
Yeah.
to go super like spiritual, but I come from like a religious background. I'm not religious anymore. But even in, like, I believe that the Bible is just one of many different books, which is a very powerful wisdom teaching, and it teaches us about
Mm.
ourselves more than anything. And even Jesus was all about letting children come to him. He wanted to be surrounded by children, I believe, because he knew the power of their mindset, the way they operated, the way they opened him up to expansion and seeing the world that he needed to see the world in order to do his mission.
Mm.
So, like,
That's
all
fascinating. I didn't
throughout,
know. I didn't.
yeah,
I didn't know that about Jesus. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was always about, like, spending time with the children, because people in the day would see them
Mm.
as, like, maybe there's a few parables of like seeing them as a nuisance and saying, like, telling the
Mm.
children not to
Mm.
go near him. He was a respected man, and yet he was like,
Mm.
no, let them come to me. And that's, I
Wow.
believe, part of that. He was tuning into like this higher level consciousness that children work with, where they have access
Yeah.
to real abundant level of life.
Wow, I love that. And you said something, so like tune in, that's a very good word, right? Because I also think what I was lacking, I don't know if you can resonate. I know a lot of my clients, especially males, is that we obviously naturally as masculine, we're very like driven and very logical brain. But we do lack the tuning in. We do lack in intuitive skills like the feminine. The problem is like with that, you don't make I believe we're what's the word? Without the intuitive side, we're really dismissing a part of our genius as masculine because I believe everyone can tune into that. And when you do inner child work, and by the way, some people don't like called, some people like freak out about inner child work being called that. Just call it whatever you want. What you don't call it whatever you want, whatever feels good in your body. But this work where you go back to your younger version actually helps you get more intuitive because as kids we are very intuitive. We're very, and you said it, they're tuned into their body. They're tuned in. Kids are very tuned in, especially under the 5-year-old who hasn't had too many imposed things on them from society yet. Very tuned into the intuitive, and sometimes they even have imaginary friends, which I actually don't believe. Sometimes they have imaginary. I actually believe they're talking to potentially spirits or something at times. Some kids are very in tune, but you get that back as well. And there's nothing greater than listening to your intuition. And my intuition has told me exactly what I'm doing in life. And I've actually got a recording from 6 years ago from my intuition when I started this work, 5 years ago, when I started this in the child work. And I did a future recording of where I'll be, and I spoke it out, and exactly it happened. And I didn't know, it was just intuitive. I didn't know how it was going to happen because it didn't make sense at that time. For example, working online, I never worked online. I was always in person. I didn't know how to create an online business. I didn't know. It showed me exactly what I was going to do, and so it can give you a sneak peek into massive visions when you're intuitive. So it's a really good tool for especially men as well to have big visions.
Yeah. And when I like tune into that for myself and like thinking of me just being in my masculine energy, which of course is a very powerful energy driving things forward. But if I can tune into who I was back when I had my breakdown when I was 25, and if I was to now switch off, my feminine side now, this intuitive side, life starts to very quickly become quite dry and boring
Hmm.
and the same repetition. It's almost like there's something missing. Part of life's missing. There's like a flavor or a color or like a richness to life that's just not being accessed. And the feeling I have with that is like, is this all there is? Is this all there
Yeah.
is? Like that sort
Yeah.
of that sort of feeling, a dissatisfaction with life. So I speak that through as if that's something that you might be feeling, there's potentially a calling there of a deepening and a calling into this deeper part of yourself that wants to come online, that knowing beyond there, is this all there is? There's actually another whole experience of reality playing out. And something I like to say to the people I work with quite often is there's 8 billion people on the planet and 8 billion people that see the world in a different way. They say that they'll see the same situation and they would take different things from it. They will make it mean something different within themselves. Some people will get excited by it and feel positive by it. Other people won't even notice the opportunity and they'll go on feeling depressed. And it makes me realize, and it allows people to realize, and the reason I share this is that we think what we see is the truth, and yet there's so many different versions of truth playing out, and we are really the limit on what we allow ourselves to see. And what we're opening to in this conversation is there's a limitless realm of opportunities of what we allow ourselves to see if we choose to take that driver's seat in our life and
Yeah.
ask some of these deeper
Yeah.
questions. And even when the conversation like we're having right now could be really fucking uncomfortable for some people, but just being able to sit with that discomfort, remembering that the trigger is actually probably something that your little child's like, hey, I'm still in here. Like, let's fucking
Yeah.
play. Let's enjoy life.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
make some magic here. So just
Yeah.
an invitation that it's okay, yeah, to feel what you're
You you
feeling.
you said something really powerful. What did you say before? Because that's exactly what I said during my breakdown. You said something about, "Is this all there is to life?" Is that what you said? Something like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what was running through my head through my big dark night of the soul. That's actually what led me down the dark path. I thought I had it all, and this is, I think this is, and if anyone's listening, this, I'm glad you said that. Totally forgot about that dialogue in my head, which was, "Is this all there is?" That's what was freaking me out. Is this all? I've got it all. Is this it? If this is life, I might as well kill myself. I know that seems like pretty deep and quite dark, but this is what goes through a lot of, especially men who do have success. They think, "Is this it? Is this all I've got to live for?" And it's not your fault if you're thinking that. It's actually trying to help you break through these, like what Greg was just saying, these kind of these limitations that we have imposed on ourselves, that we need to get to the top of the hill. And once you get to the hill, you'll be happy. But then you get to some sort of this hill, you get on top of it, and then you realize, is this it? And you start having, this is when you start having breakdowns, because life is trying to show you that's not all there is. There's much more to it. And it's not just the success, it's actually the connection to yourself. We really do miss the connection to ourselves in the Western society, the Asian societies, and when you go to Asia and even India, when I was traveling there, I was like, wow, they have this way better than us, right? They are way more connected. Yes, they're not as probably well off and successful, but they've really honed in on the spiritual side of things, religious side, and they're really connected to that spirit. You can feel it. So I do believe if you're in this spot, and I'm speaking directly to the man or even woman who is saying what Greg just said, is this all there is? Is this it? It's a really depressing question to ask yourself if you're in that spot. I remember being really depressed because I thought I had everything. Just know that you're actually being pushed into something way more beautiful than you could ever imagine, and that is healing, and healing back to your own soul. Whether that's in a child, whether that's doing it another way, whatever it is, just that's what I believe you're getting pushed to go and love yourself for who you truly are, and not what you think you should be. So I just wanted to say that because that was really powerful when you said those words. It just triggered something in me because I remember thinking that the exact words.
and I love the fact that we're talking about intuition, and yet I'm tuning into intuitively into something that you said, right? Because I didn't know why
Yeah,
that came through. And this is like a live experience of
yeah,
how this works, right? Intuition is us knowing things that we wouldn't generally know and connecting the dots and connecting the information that isn't necessarily logical to connect. And somehow we're connecting those dots. We're having those
yeah,
insights and we're able to then create frameworks and ways of seeing life and opportunities for ourselves that would have never been available unless we saw it. And if we think about like a lot of the greats, that are recorded throughout history that were geniuses within their field, they were able to do something very special using this intuition. They were able to see. I'm trying to remember this guy. His name escapes me, but he made the statue of David that is now a very
Oh, yeah,
famous.
I just seen that. I seen that a few months ago.
Yeah,
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, yep. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he he said, like, how did you go about creating this statue? He said, well,
I love this quote. I love this
the
quote.
statue was already there, that David was already there. I just had to remove everything that wasn't David.
So
So here
powerful.
he's already seeing, if you imagine this guy's model of the world, he's already seeing it in his mind's eye. He's already feeling the completion of the event. He's already seeing the frameworks. His hands are being led by a different energy or force or information
Mm,
that's outside of the normal states of awareness that we might operate with, of just seeing,
yeah.
if we were to see it through those normal states of awareness, you would have just seen this big ass marble block and a chisel in your hand and being like, all right, like let's just whack, or whatever, or having a
Yeah,
drawing or
where
something.
do I
But
start? Yeah, where do I start here?
exactly,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing, that quote. I love
yeah.
that.
And just like
That's
a
so powerful.
metaphor for life, we have this big block sitting in front of us, which is our life. And we can
Yeah.
either be led through this intuition and already be led and guided by information, connecting the dots for ourselves and being able to create something that is intrinsically for us because we're connected to ourselves, or sort of fumbling through, maybe still running other people's ideas of how we should live life. So yeah,
Yeah, and
just
I do believe, like, with intuition, that's a really good point. I love that quote. That's one of the most powerful quotes. And I do believe, like, if I look back at my life with the intuition thing, I thought, because I was a man, I thought intuition was, there was a few things around intuition. Number one, I thought it was too feminine, so I was like, all right, well, I don't want to be that. And also, I didn't actually believe it because I was quite skeptical of. I've always, in a way, I've been quite logical, so I didn't know if I could trust intuition, like it's like airy fairy. And I think we're really limiting ourselves. I'm speaking a lot to men in this podcast. This is for men, this podcast, yeah.
it is, yeah,
Mainly,
the
yeah.
Manhood
Yeah, yeah.
podcast.
Great. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
That's it. You're in the
Well,
right place.
yes, beautiful. So with men, we are kind of guilty of dismissing intuition as pussy or feminine or like made up bullshit, airy fairy. Look, some of it is, but I don't believe men are getting the right guidance with intuition. You got to remember, our eyesight only takes in that much, because some people say, well, I can't, there's no evidence. Well, of course there's no evidence of many things don't have evidence. Our eyesight can only see the tiniest bit of like light. Like there's so many more ultra ray and ultraviolet. We can't see these things. These are all magical things we can't see. There's so much more out there that we don't actually know, that are limited. We're so limited by our eyesight, our taste, our senses. So there's much more than our senses, but because some people, as logical males, if we can't see it, we can't smell it, we can't taste it, we don't think it's the real. We're really limiting ourselves as men if we buy into that bullshit, because it's not true. There's so much more out there. For example, everyone's or most people have had the thing where you've thought of someone and then 1 minute later they call you or they message you or you run into them. You haven't thought of them, you haven't seen them for a long time, then you run into them at the shop or whatever. These are these coincidences, but there is more to life. There's way more to life. And if you can and it's that childlike wonder again, just allow yourself to open up to it a little bit and give yourself a bit of space. Be skeptical, but just open up. See if you can just open your mind a little bit and just test out the waters and see how you go with it. You
Beautiful.
know?
So just like honoring this conversation and loving where it's gone to and speaking about the intuition and bringing the child alive within us. And I feel like there's so much value here. And I'm curious to ask you from here, bro, is there a daily practice you could recommend, or something that our listeners or like the men listening to this could take away from this that could be really powerful for them to bring into their life?
Yeah. So there's many things you could do. There's many things you could do, but I think the easiest and the most simple thing that you don't need a coach for, or any of us for, and you just want to do it by yourself, is just, what is something that you used to love doing in childhood or teenage years that you stopped doing? For example, for me, and this is funny, I started doing this when I started having panic attacks and did all these things in 2019, and I was mentally going downhill. I intuitively, well, I say that now, but I didn't know why, but it was my intuition was telling me to go get back on a skateboard again. So I used to love skateboarding, and I just stopped skating when I was like 13. It just stopped being cool. Like no one skated when up until 13, 14. And then after that, it wasn't a cool thing. So I stopped doing it. But that was a big part of my life from like 7 years old to 13 years old. I'd skate all the time and I had a lot of fun. Intuitively, I got back in the skateboard and I didn't realize why. And then I got back into footy. So AFL, I still love playing footy. And I stopped that for many years. So start things that you did in childhood and you stopped. It could be painting, could be like drawing. I used to love graffiti. I was a graffiti artist when I was younger. I used to do like the pieces and stuff. I do a lot of that on paper still, and it's really like therapeutic. It's because what you're doing is by doing fun things that's a part of inner child work. So inner child work isn't always heaps deep. You can do what maybe we did, me and you, where we reconnect, and another like offshoot of inner child work or whatever you want to call it. Just go have fun, right? So pick up a football. Maybe in America, what do you call it? Gridiron or whatever. Go do gridiron or whatever, or play cricket or tennis. Have some fun. Like go be a bit silly and go do something that has no. Because with men, there's always outcomes like work. You've got to do the deadline. You've got to do this. Do something that you can just free flow with, like skating or something, just free flow, or some sport. You're just a bit more flowy. Even though you're still trying to win, maybe in competitive, but it's a bit more like fun. Just go do that as a start. That's a really good start. If people just do that one thing, just add a bit more fun into your life, I guarantee your happiness will go up 25, 30% overnight. Just do that. Then there might be some childhood work to do that you might need to hire someone that knows inner child work or shadow work or something. Yes, that will come later. But just do the simple things, have some fun. That's all we need to do in the beginning.
Love it. And something that landed in for me when you were speaking about that as well, it's like when we do go into that play mode, I know for myself as a man and through the entrepreneurs that I've been interviewing on this podcast, a lot of the time when they do drop into the play and they drop into like not doing something for an outcome, this is when some of the biggest ideas come through and actually it frees them up to go next level. So it's like by allowing ourselves to do something just for fun, just for play without the outcome, sometimes the biggest rewards are actually hidden in those places that, because let's face it, like a lot of guys are actually afraid to play because they feel like they're wasting time because they should be doing something or there's something else that they
Yep.
should be doing with their time generally. And this is
Yep.
also that I sometimes experience in myself. But yeah,
Yep.
when we almost like face our fear and allow ourselves to play and have the courage to play, then another whole world can open. So yeah,
It's
I love
true.
that.
It's a good way to, yeah, what you just said is perfect. And a way to reframe it even deeper is productive play. So look
Mhm.
at it as what you just said, Greg, was perfect because that's the thing I didn't tell you. That's some of my biggest visions and exactly what you just said would come after skateboarding. I was doing something fun that I used to love doing. I had all these epiphanies. It's like in the shower, when you're in the shower, just head on the wall and you have all these like ideas. Same thing when you're playing. It all flows through. So you know, reframe it as not a waste of time. It's actually productive. It's actually productive if you spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a week, whatever, doing just something really fun. It's productive. You will gain back in ideas, in energy. Your cup will be full. You'll be energized. Another thing is you attract more because when you're authentic, nothing in this world is more attractive in general than someone who's been truly authentic. You can really feel icky when you feel like someone is like not being their true self, or they're just not, there's something off with them. Energetically we can feel people, whether you believe it or not. It just happens unconsciously. You just kind of get the feels from people. And when you add play, I guarantee if you're an entrepreneur, you will be way more authentic after, which means that if you've got clients, you will attract clients in marketing, sales, and your team. If you're a leader and you've got a team under you, they'll be more inspired by you. Like they will feel it and you will gain financially long term if you just allow more play and kind of, yeah, move through that fear of wasting time. Because I get it. I still get it at times as well. So it's a normal thing to feel.
Yeah. And I've got the other objection coming up. I'm like hearing the guys speak in my head of like that also I'm a provider. I need to look after my kids. I've got obligation to my family. And in what drops in for me for that, for people that might be thinking that of like, but I've got, people that I need to look after. I don't have time for playing. The person who we allow ourselves to become when we prioritize our own joy and aliveness, that what we have to give then is so rich. Like that's when we can really give ourselves to our children and we can show them that fuck, life's magic. Life still has room for play. Life, when you get to the age of 30 or 40, isn't just grinding and struggle and hardship. There's still room for play and aliveness and excitement because those little ones are watching us. And also
Yeah.
our partner, as much as they love the results that we bring into their life and the outcomes that we achieve for the family, also they want to be able to feel us. They want to be able to feel our passion. They want to feel our aliveness because they fall in love with that version of us. They fell in love with the version of us that's alive and passionate and excited for what we uniquely love. And usually that's the things that we're going to go back to in these play situations as well. So just
Yeah.
bringing that as this invitation of trying it on for size. If there's some objection there, or like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, that's okay for others but not me. But and see what happens in your family. Use them as a mirroring for what
Yeah.
changes where there may be issues showing up within the household that you feel like you need to deal with, but through looking and working with yourself and bringing your joy in, how things might change. Just be curious with that one. As an
Yeah, that's a
invitation,
really
man.
good point. It's a very good point. And it's a valid objection too, because like
Yeah,
having a
of
family, you
course.
do have to provide. This is the issue we have as men. It's we do have a lot of pressure on us. This is actually why you need to play. This is why you need to. There's a quote that my mentor, I can't remember which one, it was a mentor years ago. He said, the reason why you think you can't is the reason why you must. The reason why you
Mm,
think you can't play is the reason why you must. The reason why you say you can't is because you're too busy, you're stressed out, da, da, da. That's why you must play, right? Because it relieves that stress. The reason why you think you can't is the reason why you must play,
mm,
right? And like you said, Greg, just test it out. Just go on testing phase. 20 minutes, go have some fun. Just have 20 minutes of fun, play, or even better, go play with the kids. Go, you got daughters, go play some teacups. I don't know, just do something. Do something that's crazy. Do something that's so childlike with them. Just do it. Just try it out. If they're young, try that out. If they're a teenager, go play basketball with them. Just try it, play with them. Just test things out and don't take my word or Greg's word. Just start testing things. And I guarantee you'll see some sort of result from it.
yeah, I love that, man. And this really speaks to like what I admire in powerful men is men that are open, but they're also solid within themselves that they test things for themselves. And
Yeah.
it's powerful for us to take on these ideas, but also like yeah, it's also to have that healthy level of objection of like trying it on and I'm going to see if it works for me. And if it doesn't, I'll leave it. And if it does, I'll take it further and I'll keep moving with it. But I love the invitation that we're bringing into this place, and it feels like a really nice place for us to shimmy out of the conversation, man. And yeah, it's been a beautiful dropping in with you, and like just thank
Yeah.
you
Thank
for
you.
sharing what you have and coming in with your playful energy.
Yeah.
Just
You're
even
welcome.
in what you're holding in the space, man, it gives an insight into what that looks like and feels like. And this is a beautiful thing. As we grow, we become an inspiration for those around us. So thank you for being an inspiration today, bro. And it's been cool
Yeah.
having you on
You're
the show.
welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been very fun, very fun. My inner child came out.
And for people that are wanting to find more about you, more about what the work you do, and potentially even look into some of this inner child work, where's the best place for them to connect with you, bro?
So Instagram healing.all.things. So healing.all.things, or just Facebook. I literally do all my work on my private like public page, which is Aaron Cartwright. So Aaron Cartwright on Facebook. And just give
Right.
me a DM if you want any info or anything, or you just want to chat or you want to know anything about inner child, just send me a DM.
Great. And we'll pop that all down in the links below as well, so you can click straight through whether you're on Spotify or YouTube. So,
Awesome.
all right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
brother. Thank you again. And thank you for our listeners. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Manhood Podcast. We'll see you on the next one.